Hi, my name is Oswald Situk. Today we'll be looking at a secure way to connect to your virtual machines running in Azure. And for that, we're going to bring Azure Bastion on stage. RDP and SSH are some of the fundamental means through which you can connect to your workloads running in Azure. However, exposing your RDP and SSH ports over the internet can be risky, and it is usually discouraged. It is seen as a significant threat surface as it can make your workloads and your network vulnerable to attacks like the brute force and unauthorized entry. This is as a result of the vulnerabilities with this protocol. To contain this threat surface, you can deploy Bastion hosts at the public side of your perimeter network. Bastion host servers are designed and configured to withstand these attacks. They also provide you with RDP and SSH connectivity to your workloads sitting behind the Bastion. Now, what is this Azure Bastion? Azure Bastion is a fully managed PaaS service that lets you safely connect to your virtual machines using their private IP addresses. And the emphasis is on private IP addresses. So this means that our virtual machines do not need to hold a public IP address on their network interfaces, but you can still connect to them remotely using Bastion. Bastion provides secure and seamless RDP and SSH connectivity to your virtual machines, and you can connect to them directly from the portal or via the native SSH and RDP client you already have on your local computer. When you connect to Bastion, your VMs do not need to have a client software or a public IP address, and the hosts are just like jump servers. So the entire Bastion service is analogous to saying you have a public endpoint, a public facing endpoint, and you have a load balancer that takes traffic from there and distributes them to jump servers. And then these jump servers or instances of Bastion can now make hops into the virtual machines that you want to connect to in the private network. So that's just how it works. So once you set up this connection, Bastion allows you to securely connect to your virtual machines, all the virtual machines in the particular network it is being deployed in. So it helps you avoid exposing your RDP and SSH ports to the internet whilst you maintaining remote access. The connection to these virtual machines using Bastion will open directly in your Azure portal with any HTML5 capable browser that's using the port 443 and the Azure Bastion service. And I must mention that Azure Bastion supports the transport layer security version 1.2, and it doesn't support the older versions like 1.0 and 1.1. And today we are going to have to create a virtual machine in a subnet, and then we'll create another virtual machine in another subnet, both of them in the same network. And then we're going to deploy our Azure Bastion, and we will connect to these virtual machines remotely using Azure Bastion without the public IP address. So we're going to be using the private IP address via either the 3 port 3389 as the RDP or the port 22, that's the SSH port. But we're going to be going through our browser. So we're going to be connecting to our VM via the browser. And like I said, it supports the transport layer security version 1.2. So this is just a diagram of what we're going to be doing in this lab. Without further ado, let's jump into the portal and get this started. So here we are in the portal, and we'll just go right in and create our virtual machines and the Azure Virtual Network with the subnets, and then we'll go ahead and deploy our Bastion and then see how this works. So I'll come here and just hit on virtual machines. Then I'll click on create. Virtual machine is selected. And here it tells you that the subscription has is not eligible to create deploy VMs in of certain sizes in the region. So this is because I am using a Azure free account to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Oswald resource group. That's the resource group I want to use. And the virtual machine here, I would just give it a name, OTMM VM1. And then I want to use EastUS. For the purpose of this, I don't need to have any redundancy, so I'll just turn off. So no infrastructure redundancy required in this case. I will go with Windows Server 2019. That works for me. And I'll use this file, this VM size, yeah, and I'll just give it a name. So I'll call this my VM and select my password and then do it again. So it does match. The idea of using Bastion is that we can choose to do this privately and we don't have to attach a public IP address to our VM, and we're not exposing this port. So I wouldn't be turning this on. I will turn off this RDP ports. So I just click on none. So no ports are available right now. Please fit no, this RDP port and the SSH port are not facing the internet. So I just click on next on disk. I wouldn't be doing anything here. I'll leave it as is. The OS disk is just ideal because I wouldn't be doing anything on this VM. I'll click on next for networking. Here we don't have any network, so I would have to create one. So let's do that together. So here we will create one. Okay, the name is OTMM. No, I don't want to use that. So I'll click on create new. I will remove VM1. So I just want to have OTMM VNet. Good. I will change this IP address to a smaller one, 192.168. Let's use 49 and dot 0 slash 24. So this will give me 256 IP addresses, and we can go ahead and create our subnet. So I'll just have subnet 1 like we had in our diagram. That's what we're trying to replicate here, and I'll have this start from 192.168.49.0 and slash let's use 26. So this will give us 64 IP addresses in here. So the next one I'm going to use will definitely start from 64 because this one ends with 63. You can choose to change the order. You might want it to start from somewhere else in the range of IPs, but I just want to use what is available to me. Also, if you want to learn more about Azure Virtual Networks, you can see a link in my description that will give you access to that. So I'll click on this. .64 is where this will start from, and slash 26 also. So I have these two subnets. So each of the VMs will be in each, like in one VM will be here, VM1 will be here, and VM2 will be here. So I've created this. I'll click on OK. Now we have our virtual network and we have our subnets. I have 1 and 2, so I've chosen 1. And because of what we're trying to test, we don't need a public IP of any sort. So I'm going to turn this off to none. We don't want a public IP. And a virtual NIC, a network interface, will be created for you whenever you're creating a VM. So you cannot configure that manually. So it will be done. I just need to have an NSG that links to that. So I'll just leave this one as it is. So it means that this NSG will govern traffic that happens on this virtual machine. And I think that's good. This is good. Okay, this is good for now. Management. For the rest of this, I won't do anything because it doesn't serve what I want to show you today. I'll just put my tag, this owner tag, and the Oswald will be selected here. So I have the Oswald here and review and create. But before I go, you see there are 13 resources that will be created in the entire process, and each of them will have this tag. So that's what it's telling you now. So we have the auto shutdown schedule. All of these things are going to have the tag attached to it. So just go ahead and click on review and create. So our validation has passed. It means that our configuration we use is accepted. For the size of the VM we use, that's the vCPUs, as the virtual CPUs, and the RAM and the entire configuration for this size. This is how much I'll be paying per hour. Then I will just go down, review this if I want to, but I know this already, so I'll just click on create. Also, I will let you know how long it took for me to create all these resources, so you are aware of what to expect. So we have successfully created our VM, but we need 2 virtual machines. So I'm just going to go ahead and create another. Let's hit on create another VM. And we would use the same resource group. So I'll just click on this, use the Oswald, and come here. The other one was OTMM1, so this will be OTMM VM2. East-US also, and I do not want to use any redundancy. So now it's in East-US, it means I can use that virtual network also. So I'll leave everything here as it is. Okay, that's good enough. And I'll give it the same username, then give it the password. So here we have confirmed our password. The ports, I wouldn't allow any ports. The idea is that we will not be exposing our RDP or SSH port to the internet. So turn this on. Leave the disk as it is, nothing extra here. Here in networking, now you see it has automatically picked the virtual machine the virtual network we created prior to this second VM. So it's right there. If I want to create a new one, I can go ahead and do that. And this time around, I want to put it in a different subnet, so subnet 2. Then we also do not want to give this an IP address, a public IP address. So we turn this off. With the nick, I do not want it to have a different nick. I want it to use the same NSG, sorry, the same NSG. So I'll come to advanced and then select the NSG in the same region. So see OTMM VM1. So I've done that. And I will select this so that the nick will be deleted when the VM is also deleted. Move on to management. Anyways, from all of this part, I don't need much from there for the context of what we're doing. So I'll just use my tags, attach my tags, and move forward quickly. So I need to show you how long the other VM took to deploy. So I will do that in this one. So we're done with this deployment. So I'm going to show you the deployment details. This is the VM itself, and this is the network interface card. So if I come to network interface card, first of all, it took about 7 seconds to be deployed. And we do the same here with the VM. You see our VM took about 38 seconds to deploy. So that's that. So now we've gotten both VMs. I'm just going to first of all go to the resource group so you see what we have there. And the other resources you see here are necessities for these VMs to function properly. So I have my VM1, I have my VM2. This is the energy for both of them. Then I'll just go ahead and open my VM1. So my VM1 is currently running, and if I wanted to connect to this VM, I have Bastion as an option, but if I click on connect now, I will be opportune to use maybe the RDP to connect to this Windows virtual machine. But we don't have any public IP address to do this, and I cannot connect to this virtual machine via my private IP address right now. So I will just do that so you can see that. Let me bring up my RDP. So this is the IP address. So if I try to use 192.168.49.4, try to connect to this now, it's definitely going to fail because I do not have any access to this. So that's it. So it's failed, and I want to connect from the portal using Bastion. So that's what we're trying to do here. So Bastion is what we want to do. So if I click on Bastion right now, you would see that we have two options right here: deploy Bastion and configure manually. So if you click on deploy Bastion, it will deploy Bastion for you without you having to do any configuration. This is going to be the configuration. This will be the name of the Bastion service. This will be the resource group, and this will be the virtual network. And it's going to be a standard SKU. So that's what it's going to do for you if you were to click that. But I want us to configure this manually. Anyways, I'm going to show you that we can also do that from our virtual network. So if I come to virtual network, OTMM VNet. So if I click on this now, here in Bastion, you can click on Bastion, the same thing is going to be given to us. So since we have both VMs in the same network but different subnets, we can just do it from here. It serves. So I can click on configure manually. Here we are in the creation wizard for Bastion. So create a Bastion, and my resource group has been chosen by default. So I'll just come here and give it a name. So I'll say OTMM Bastion East US. And in this case, I do not want to have redundancy, like I said, just for this demo purpose. I'll turn it off. Then we have the tier. So we have 4 tiers when it comes to Bastion. We have the developer tier, basic tier, standard tier, premium tier. So with the developer tier, you only get only one instance. So watch this. I'm going to click on this tier and change to standard again. You see, there's something called instance count that comes up here. This is for host scaling. If I come back here and click on developer, this is just going to give you one instance of Bastion. What that means is that you can use this Bastion to connect to one VM at a time. After connecting to the VM, if you want to connect to another VM, you have to disconnect that session you have and then connect to the other VM you want to use. However, with the basic, you get 2 instances of Bastion, a maximum of 2. You can use just one. It's not compulsory you use all of it, but you have 2, and you can connect to 2 virtual machines concurrently, like at the same time. So each of those sessions will run, but you cannot have more than 2 sessions at the same time. That's the maximum you have, and you can't even change it. Then if you come to standard, you have 2 as a default, but you can move the slider around and changes. It's from 2 to 50. And if I move to the premium, you see the same thing, 2 to 50. So it means you can have, by default, you have 2 instances, but you can scale all the way up to 50 instances. So you can connect to about 50 virtual machines simultaneously. So I'm going to just come here, and because my region has changed, I'll change this back to East US, and let's do this East US, and I do not want any redundancy. Then I'll just use standard. Also, I want you to note that, let me take this off again. I want you to note that when you see this move, this slider move across, you begin to see an error there. Now this error is because I haven't yet created a subnet. So for you to have a bastion deployed in your virtual network, you need to create a unique subnet for it, which is called Azure Bastion subnet. When you create this subnet, this is where your bastion would be deployed, and to get an IP address from this subnet. So right now we are saying we want to have like about 26 instances, and we do not have a subnet for that. But before, like you see, there's a range that you get into, and it begins to tell you that's too much. You don't have a subnet to handle that. So let's just go ahead and create a subnet. So it says to fix this, please delete or and recreate Azure Bastion with this. So I'll just say no problem. I'll leave this one as it is and come here to the virtual network. I choose my virtual network, and I do not have a Bastion subnet yet. So I did this intentionally so you get to see that you must have a Bastion subnet before you can deploy Bastion. So I'll come here and manage subnet configuration myself, and here I'm taken to my virtual network, so I can go and do that. Here I would see the subnets I have available, subnet 1 and subnet 2. Then I'll click on subnet, add subnet, the plus sign right there. And then here I will configure a subnet for my bastion. So it's not about you coming to change the name. If you come to subnet purpose, there is a default configuration set on the back end for bastion. So once I click that, you see this is the name we're looking for. So I'll just go ahead and use this IP address here. Starting address is 128 because this one stopped at 127. So here I might just use /26. That will give me 64 IP addresses, and that is the lowest amount of hosts we can have in our subnet. We cannot have /27, which will be 32, so we can't have that, but we can go all the way up. So I'll just use 25 just to use up the entire IP space. I'll go out and just add this, give it some time. So now we've successfully added our subnet to Azure Bastion subnet. So we can use this. This has 123 available IPs, and that's because we've not yet deployed our Bastion. And out of the 128 IPs that were available, 5 were reserved by Azure. So just like we had in this other case, but this was supposed to be 59. But because we have also given 1 IP each from each subnet to VMs, that's why we have 58 now. So I'll just close this. That will take us back to where we were, and it's giving us our subnet now, and that has disappeared. So now if you have the ability to handle 50 hosts, it's not a problem. So that's disappeared, so you have it there. Also, I want you to note that with these tiers, if you have the developer tier, you have only 1 instance. Then the basic tier, you have 2 instances. You can connect to multiple VMs, two VMs at the same time. Standard, you can have up to 2 to 50. Premium, the same thing. But some other features you have available are dependent on the architecture or the SKU, that's the tier you've chosen. So one of those is what we have here with the private IP address. So I'm going to change this back again. I just want to show you something. If I click on premium here, you see this is opened up to me. So with the premium tier, you are able to use private IP address. That's the private only bastion. That's what we use with Express Route. But I'm not going to do that for the purpose of this demonstration. Just want you to know that that's available. But with every other one, you are left with the, like, if I come to the standard here, you're left with public IP address. So here I don't have any public IP address. I will let it just create one for me, and that's good enough. I think everything here is good enough. So I will just click on, I don't want 50 instances, I want just 2 for the purpose of this demo. And I think my region has changed again. Okay, I'll just do this again. So we'll come here and do this. East US, we don't want any redundancy. Yes. Standard, yes. 2 instances, yes. Virtual network, check. Subnet automatically checked. Okay, we're good to go now. So I'm going to go down here and click on advanced. So these are the features that comes with that you could choose to select when you're creating Bastion. And first of all, you see session recording is turned off. This is only available for premium tier or premium SKU. And the shareable link is available to standard also. So that's why you see it here. So with shareable link, you can create a link and send to someone, and with that link, they can sign into your VM remotely from their browser. So the browser has to be a HTML5 capable browser, so it can handle that. Then we have native client support. That's if you want to use Bastion with your native client software, maybe your RDP or SSH software, your local computer, you can use native client software. And Kerberos. What Kerberos does is it adds a layer of authentication using the Kerberos protocol. That's for domain joined VMs. So that's what you can use there. And what we have here is the IP-based connection. So with the IP-based connection, you are able to just connect directly to your VM using its private IP. So we're going to see how that is done. So I'm going to check that, and also shareable link, we check that. We copy and paste. It just means that you are able to copy things between your local computer and your remote VM. And with the basic tier, you can't change this, but with the standard tier and premium, you can change this. You can uncheck it if you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to just go ahead and click that. And next thing I have is my tags. I would add my tag quickly, and then we can move ahead. Review and create. Then I'll click on create now. So I'll also let you know how long this took. So here we have successfully deployed our Bastion service. I'm going to come here to deployment details. So let's just see. The IP is not much of a big deal, but the Bastion itself, let's see how long it took. It took about 7 minutes 54 seconds. Okay, that works. I'll just come here and close this, and I'll just go to my resource directly. So here in the Azure Bastion resource, you can just see that I have a public address attached to this, public DNS also. This is a subnet which it belongs to on the virtual network. And we can just go down. I'm just going to start from here to show you something. So you see in configuration here, here you can also come and change the settings that you did before. So you can come and add Kerberos, or maybe native client if you want to, and you apply. It will take some time and it will be done for you. And we have the tiers here. Now with Bastion, you cannot downgrade. So if I click on this now, trying to downgrade, then move to a lower tier, it doesn't allow. Downgrading Bastion is not permitted. However, if I try to upgrade, there's no error whatsoever. So I can go ahead and upgrade, but I cannot downgrade. So I don't want to do any of that. So I'll discard the changes, and I'll come here and just show you around. So in overview, we had an opportunity to connect. The same thing is here. So if I click on connect, you would see this. Okay, we're given an opportunity to type in an IP address and connect. And that's that feature we saw here. So if I come back to configuration, the feature that says IP based connection. Yeah, so that's it. So if I come to connect right now, you would see that I can connect to this via a VM via the private IP address. And then you can choose the protocol if it's SSH or RDP. So with your Windows virtual machines, you can use RDP, and with your Linux virtual machine, you can use SSH. However, with the standard tier and the premium tier, you can the reverse is possible. Like you can open a Linux VM with an RDP, and also open a Windows VM with the SSH. But you would still need to install some components to make this work efficiently. So that's just it. And I am going to come to session. Here in session, if you have any active sessions running, it would show here that you have a session running. Right now we don't have anything, that's why nothing is showing here, but we'll come back here once we launch into our VM. Then we have shareable links, and here in shareable links you can create a link for someone to use to access the VM remotely from wherever they are, and that's very possible. We'll come back here, and I've talked about configuration. Resource logs just helps you can create read or delete logs that can help you prevent yourself from accidentally deleting this resource or making modifications that you do not want to. So that's what a resource log really does. But I will focus on that here in this recording. And here's metrics. We'll come back to metrics anyways. Let's just have something to check. So I'm going to come back to our resource group. So I'll come back to our resource group, and now we have deployed Bastion. It means that we can access Bastion from the VMs because they're on the same network. Remember I said that with Bastion you can connect to any virtual machine in the network it belongs to. So if I come here to Bastion now, it will tell you that it wants to use OTMM Bastion. So it is available for use. If I come back again to the other VM, let's go to the other VM. The same thing will be there. So come to VM2. They are in different subnets, remember. So if I come here, it will also tell you that you have OTM and Bastion to use. And I also want to show you that you can also connect from your virtual network. It's an associated resource in the virtual network. So I'm going to come to my VNet, yes. So in VNet, I have Bastion here. However, the advantage here in connecting to Bastion via the VNet is that you can choose the multiple virtual machines you want to connect to. So if I add more, it will show them here. So now I have VM1 and VM2. This is in subnet 1 and subnet 2. But from here, I can just select which one I want to connect to. So that's okay. So I'm going to connect to one of them from here. So I'll come with VM1, and here is a Windows virtual machine. So I'll just continue from here, and you have two authentication methods, and we have the VM password or the password from Azure Key Vault. So we're going to look at this, but let's start with the VM password. So I'm going to put the username, my VM, and then I will come to the password, and this is checked, so it's opening another tab. So if once I hit connect right now, we would be redirected in another tab to our virtual machine via Bastion. So your browser must be HTML5 capable for that to work well. So click on allow, and just like that, we are in the virtual machine. So my VM virtual machine, signing in. So here we are in, just click on yes. This is our server manager on the virtual machine. So OTM and VM1. We can also come back here and say we want to connect to VM2. Remember, we have two instances. If we want to upgrade the instances now, we can go ahead and do that. I'll show you where you can do that under configuration also. So here I have my VM2. So I want to connect to my VM2. I'll give it the username, password. So now I'll just connect to this. Don't worry about this, it just happens. So we have the second VM opening up. The first VM is opened here. I'm in this VM, so I can just go to local server. Here you see OTM and VM1, and if I come here, it's loading. So here we have second VM. If I come to local server, you'll see OTM and VM2. So we are currently connected to both VMs concurrently. That's because we have two sessions. If we had three and we had multiple VMs, we could use the third one also. So I'm going to come back here. But this time around, I mean, you've seen how this works. You can also do that from your virtual machine directly, the same process. So if I was to go to my virtual machine to do that, okay, this OTM VM, OTM and VM1. So I'll just come here. You can do the same thing. Click on Bastion and then try to connect here. Same process. That's what you would have. However, I just want to move to our Bastion service and show you Bastion. So I use the breadcrumbs to move quickly, but you can just go to the resource group also. And from the resource group, I can come to OTM and Bastion. So here in Bastion, I'm going back to sessions just to show you that we have two active sessions so you can confirm. I told you this will show when we have active sessions. So that's what I've come in here to show you. So you see now we have two sessions right now going on, session ID, and this is VM1 and VM2. This is their private IP addresses, so that works. So I'm going to copy the private IP address of VM1. So I'm going to copy this, and I'll come here. I'll just close VM1. So I'll close this session. So the session is out. If I come back here now and refresh, you'll see one session is gone. Give it a moment. So one session is gone. Only VM2 is running. I want to show you how this IP-based connection works. So I'll just come here and paste the IP address. And same thing, I'll just go ahead and put my username, connecting to the VM, and then my password. And then I'll hit connect. So it's connecting back to that particular VM, continuing from where I stopped. So you see OTM and VM1. So we have it here. If I come here also, we'll see the sessions now will change to 2. So we have 2 sessions right now. So this is the second one. I connected via the IP address, not the name of the VM. So I want to go to configuration and show you what I said earlier. So with the instance count, you can increase it if you want to, maybe 5. You can do that. You can just change it if you want to, but I don't want to do anything. So it's between 2 to 50. It cannot be empty. So I have to just discard the changes I made. So that is just how you connect to your virtual machine using Azure Bastion. So it serves like a jump box, a jump server that helps you access your VMs remotely and with the private IP address, and that doesn't review your RDP and SSH ports to the internet. So now, if you notice in all of this, I didn't make any changes to my resource, my NSG. So I'm going to come to my resource group and show you something. Because Bastion is part of the local network, is part of the a subnet in the local network, it is allowed to communicate with the other VMs in the network. That's because in the default NSG rules, it allows VNet inbound from any port, from any protocol in the virtual network. So communication happens within the virtual network. And also, if you're communicating, if another VM is sending out communication to you or any other resource in the same network, it's allowed. So that's why there is no need to go ahead and configure any NSG rules. However, if you want to use a native client, you can get to configure NSG rules on the Bastion itself to allow traffic to come in via the port 443. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. I just want you to see that one of the benefits of Bastion now is you don't have to struggle with the hassle of managing NSGs because it just happens, and you do not need to give a public IP address to the virtual machines. You don't need to attach it to the NICs of the virtual machines. And another thing is that it protects you against zero-day exploit. So it just prevents you from being exploited. And it prevents you from port scanning that people could have just to make sure they have access to your VM. So it's just really, the benefits are just enormous. Another thing I'm going to do is to just come back here and show you something about the shareable links. So as I said before, shareable links, you can create a link for someone to use to access your virtual machine. So what I'm going to do is click this, and then I am going to just select what resource I want. VM2, good. Apply. So that will create a link that anyone can use anywhere to access this. So I've successfully created a link. This is the link. So check the status. So it's active. I'll just come here and copy this link. I'll open a new private window. Then I'll paste the link in there. See. So this is it. It's asking me to put my username and password. Then login. And voila. Here we are in our VM. So this is the second VM, VM2. So we're able to log into this. And that said, I just want you to get to see how we can connect to Bastion using the key vault. So let's just quickly create a key vault here. I'll just type key vault. So click on key vault. I'm going to create one. So the reason why I can do this is because I have a contributor role on this tenant, so I can do that. It allows me to do that. So I can come here and just call it OTMM key vault. So OTMM key vault east-west. Okay, we add Z there. Okay, then I have east-US and standard. Just changes. It's just a quick demo. So I'm going to check this. So the resource access I want is with Azure Virtual Machines. And here I can choose how I want to manage permissions in terms of the data plane. So as a contributor, I have access in the control plane so I can make changes. But when it comes to data processing, the data management, I need to have a role. So I want to give access via RBAC, and I'm going to do that now. I don't want to use vault access policies, but RBAC. So I'll just go ahead and click on next networking. So here in networking, I can is enabled right now. I can leave it in all networks. That means I can access it from just anywhere in the world. And if I'm accessing it from anywhere and I connect to my Azure resource, I will be able to use it. But if I click on selected networks, what this means is I have to have a service endpoint. So I can have a service endpoint attached to a virtual network subnet, and then I can use it here. But we're not going to do this here. And also I can just choose to use private endpoint altogether, block everything, and then use private endpoint altogether. But in this case, I just want to give it full access. So I'll go ahead and click on tags as usual. I'm going to put my tag right here, the Oswald, and review and create. This deploys relatively very fast, so I'm going to just do this. So I hit on create. Okay, so we've successfully deployed this. So I'll just check the time it took for this to be deployed. 23 seconds, so that's quite fair. I'll go to the resource itself. I'm not going to go through explaining so much. I just want to go quickly create my secret because it's a secret I want to use in this case. So click on secret and I'll click on generate. So you see now the operation is not allowed by RBAC. So if role assignments were recently changed, please wait several minutes for the role. Okay. So if I try to do this now, even if I try to, it wouldn't work. Let me just say password. And then let me just put a random thing here. This is where you would try to set the the dates of activation, when it's going to start being active and when it's going to stop being active, and if it's enabled or not. And I'll just go ahead and hit create so you can see that it wouldn't work. So an error occurred. So that's because of we don't have permission to do that on the data plane. So I'll come here and you can let me come to role assignment so you can see that I have access as the owner on this tenant and I am also a contributor on this tenant, but still I wasn't able to do that. So I'm going to come here and add the role I want to use. I'm going to use the least permission I need for this. So I'm just going to come to secret officer. I could use keyboard administrator. I could use that, but that's overkill. So based on the principle of least privilege, I just want to use secret officer, so I can just quickly move along. And I'll select members. The Oswald, okay, it's right here. Select, and that's it. Review and assign. So that's done. So now we have permission to do that. So I will just quickly move ahead from here and come back to secrets. Now that's caution is no more there. So I'll just click on generate this. I will call this my VM password as a name I want to call it, and I'll put my password here. The same password I use for the virtual machine is what I'm going to put here. So I don't want to set any activation date. Let it just be as it is. I click on create. So now we created a secret called my VM password. So let's go back to our Bastion. Let's go back to Bastion. So I think I have Bastion here. Okay, so we're here in Bastion. I want to connect to, okay, we still have our sessions right here. So I'm going to come here and change this one. I don't want to connect to this second. I want to connect to this second VM. This first one is already connected via IP. So I want to also show you that I can connect to the second one via IP. So I'll come to sessions and I'll get this password, the private IP address of the second one from here. Then I'll close the session before making it work. So I'll come here and I'll copy it. Remember, we have only two sessions that we set here. If I come to configuration, we have just two instances. So I wouldn't want to mess with that. So I'm going to come back here to Bastion. Then I'll close this session. Click on connect. Type in my password, my IP address, my private IP address, and then leave everything else here. Change this to password from Azure Key Vault. Now I'll provide my username. The subscription is here. What key vault do I want to use? This is the key vault, OTMM key vaults. And then what secret do I want to use? My VM password. So once I hit on connect, it should log into the second VM and continue from where it stopped. So it should show me its IP address just like this other one. This first VM. It should show me something like this, OTMM VM2. So that's what I'm expecting to see here. So we see OTMM VM2. So we're able to connect to this virtual machine using our VM password, and then we also connect with password from Azure Key Vault. So you've seen how we can use Bastion. Bastion is a very reliable service. It's constantly getting improvement in features as the day comes. And that said, I want us to get to see the pricing of Bastion, like what's really going on. So here, I want you to first of all understand that Bastion, the pricing of Bastion is based on the SKU that you choose to use, and also based on the data transfer that you have in that you make while using the sessions. So now in East-US, which is where my resources were recently created, if you use Azure Bastion Developer, it's free. But remember, you have only one instance and you can only connect to one VM per time. And then if you use Azure Bastion Basic, you get to pay 19 cents per hour. With the Bastion standard, you can have 0.29. So you have two by default, and then every other instance you add, apart from the two that was given, you'll be paying for it with 14 cents per hour. So this is like for two, this is for one. Same thing happens with the premium. You pay 0.45, that's 45 cents per hour, and then for any additional instances, you pay 22 cents per hour. Then if we move on to the outbound data transfer, on Azure, you're not charged for data ingress, you're only charged for data egress. So with that, you see outbound data transfer. So for the first 5 gigabytes every month, you have free access. You can do that, it's free. But anything above that, you have to pay $0.087 per gigabyte. So for every gigabyte more, you have to pay that. And then the prices just change as it goes along. So that's just what I want you to see, so that you also know how to deploy your resources and plan repricing properly so that you don't get overwhelmed. So that said, we'll come back to our VMs. So we have these VMs here. This is the second VM, and here we are back in Azure. And one more thing I want to show you is the metrics. So I wanted this to run for some time so that we can come check the metrics and see some things. So if I come to metrics here, so I'll be asked to choose what I want to check. So I'll say CPU usage. Okay, so it's going to show me the CPU usage I've had since, just some data you want to process, or people who need this data to confirm certain things. And I could say no, I want to split it for the multiple sessions I've had. So I have just two. So I'll apply this to each instance. And here you see each of the instances is being opened to me. So it just shows you what I've been doing. And you can change the limits. So it's just about you. And if you want to share the reports, you can just come here and download as Excel, or send a workbook, send to workbook, copy a link. It's just very easy. You can save a dashboard also. So this is just what I wanted you to see. I hope you learned from using Bastion and you give it a try soon. And thank you for sticking around. Catch you in the next video. Bye.